In 2007, there were 12,549 CSA farms in America. By 2020, 13 years later, that number had dropped to 7,244. While social media was calling subscription farm boxes the future of agriculture, 42% of them had already quietly disappeared. Today we're going to find out exactly why, and more importantly, what it means if you're thinking about building one. I'm going to show you the member retention math that nobody runs before they launch, the real cost per box after every line item is accounted for, the external force that hit the CSA industry like a freight train while everyone was looking the other way, and the single decision that separates the farms in that USDA decline statistic from the ones that survived. We don't grow crops, we grow margins. Let's get into it.
Part 1. The leak that nobody sees.
Picture February on a small farm. The fields are resting, the equipment is stored, and the farmer, who spent March through October building relationships with 50 members, delivering 50 boxes every week, answering emails at 9 p.m. about a missing kohlrabi, is sitting down to send renewal invitations for the coming season. The emails go out, and then the responses start coming in. A family is moving. A couple decided to try a different service. Someone says the boxes were great, but they never knew what to do with the celeriac. A few people just don't reply at all. By the time the renewal window closes, the farmer who had 50 members last October has 32 confirmed for next season. How do you start the year having lost 18 members before you planted a single seed? You don't, because the business plan assumed they would come back. And nobody told you that the average CSA farm loses approximately 50% of its members every single year. That number comes from NC State Extension and Shared Legacy Farms, two of the most cited sources on CSA economics in North America. The range across farms is 25 to 70%, depending on the operation, but the average is half every year. Now think about what that means structurally. Year 1, you work hard, you sign up 50 members, and by October, you feel like you've built something real. Year 2, 25 of those members don't come back. You are now running the same farm, with the same fixed costs, with half your revenue base gone before the season starts. To get back to 50 members, you need to find 25 new ones. Not to grow, just to stand still. That means marketing spend, time, and energy going into acquisition for members who might only deliver one season of value before they become part of next year's attrition number. This is the CSA death spiral in its earliest form, and it starts in February, when everything about the business still feels like momentum. So why do they leave? 3 reasons show up in the data consistently. 1. Decision fatigue. A surprise box of seasonal produce sounds romantic until week 11 when it's the 3rd time this month you've received a vegetable you don't know how to cook. The member doesn't blame the farmer. They just quietly decide not to renew. 2. Lack of choice. 70% of CSA members, according to a local harvest survey, prefer a customizable box over a fixed one. Most small CSA farms offer fixed boxes because their production model isn't built for customization. That gap is where churn lives. 3. A better option arrived. And we are going to come back to this in detail because this is the part of the CSA story that almost nobody talks about. But first, let's find out what happens to the $25 inside the box.
Before we get into the numbers, if you are seriously considering building a CSA operation, there is one book I would put in your hands before anything else. The Market Gardener by Jean-Martin Fortier. He built a 200-member CSA on 1.5 acres and documented every operational decision. It is the most credible blueprint for this model that exists. Link is in the description.
Part 2. The $25. A cost analysis. Your standard CSA share is $25 a week, 50 members. That's $1,250 of gross revenue every week of your season. Let's find out where it goes. Start with growing inputs, seeds, transplants, soil amendments, irrigation, pest management. On a well-run diversified vegetable farm, these typically run 8 to 12% of gross revenue. On a $25 share, that's $2 to $3. Gone. Now harvest labor. Richard Wiswall's research at Cate Farm in Vermont, the most rigorous farm labor analysis I've found, concluded that approximately 50% of all labor on a diversified vegetable farm goes to harvesting, washing, and packing. Not growing, not planting, just physically moving produce from field to box. Packing 50 boxes takes roughly 8 to 10 hours per week. At $15 an hour, that's $120 to $150 per week. Across 50 boxes. $2.50 to $3 per box, just for packing. Add packaging, the box, the paper bags inside it, the rubber bands, the printed label with your farm name, $1 to $1.50 per box. Add delivery, 4 to 6 hours per week in a vehicle. That time has a cost, even if you don't assign one to it. We're sitting at roughly $6 to $8 of direct cost per box before we've touched overhead, which means on a $25 share the gross margin target, according to CSAFarms.ca, is 40 to 50%. On a $25 share, a healthy gross margin leaves you $12 to $13. Before your own labor, before overhead, before the costs that live in the blank page of the business plan. What blank page? None of what I've told you so far is the real reason most CSA farms fail. The costs I'm about to show you in the next section are the ones that appear nowhere in the launch plan, and they're the ones that take out Year 2 operations quietly from underneath.
Part 3. The costs that don't make the pitch deck. Every CSA I have looked at has a crop plan, a planting calendar, a harvest schedule. What almost none of them have is a complete accounting of the overhead that runs underneath all of that. Let's name it. Software. Running a CSA of any real scale, more than 20 or 30 members, requires management software for sign-ups, payments, box customization, delivery routing, and member communication. Platforms like Harvey charge a setup fee plus a percentage of your total sales. On a $40,000 CSA, that software cost can exceed $3,000 a year. Payment processing. CSAs collect preseason payments. Great for cash flow. But every card transaction costs approximately 2.9% plus 30 cents. On $40,000 of preseason revenue, you are handing over more than $1,000 in processing fees before a seed goes in the ground. Member acquisition. Remember the 50% churn. Every member who leaves has to be replaced. What does acquiring one new CSA member actually cost? A farmer's market presence, social media content, local advertising, a referral program. These costs are real. Most operators just absorb them invisibly in their own time and never put them in the profit and loss. Every member you lose costs you twice. Once in the revenue that leaves with them, once in what it costs to find someone to take their place, and then there is the cost that no spreadsheet captures cleanly. The administrative weight of running a direct relationship business. The member who emails at 8 p.m. because they got the wrong box. The social media post you need to write in January to stay top of mind when renewals open in February. The 3-week pause request that requires you to manually adjust the delivery route and the packing list. These are not farming tasks. They are customer service tasks. They take time that is not growing anything. When you add it all up, the full labor cost, the overhead, the acquisition cost for churned members, the processing fees, the software, the effective hourly rate for a small CSA farmer frequently falls below minimum wage on a net basis. Not the gross revenue, the net after everything. Below minimum wage. This is not a condemnation of the model.
It is a description of what happens when a business is built on optimistic assumptions rather than complete costs. Here is the number that reframes everything. The farms that struggled didn't fail because their crops failed. USDA data shows the CSA decline was sharpest among farms with fewer than 75 members, precisely the scale that every YouTube launch video targets as a great place to start. The model that gets sold as the entry point is the one with the worst unit economics. The minimum viable CSA is larger than the dream CSA. Now let's talk about the freight train. Part 4. The freight train nobody saw coming. The CSA decline isn't only explained by internal business model problems. Something happened in the market between 2007 and 2022 that changed the competitive landscape permanently, and almost no one in the farming community was watching. In 2011, HelloFresh was founded in Berlin. In 2012, Blue Apron launched in the United States. By 2022, the global meal kit industry was worth more than $6 billion, the same 13 years in which CSA farms declined by 42%. Now think about what HelloFresh and Blue Apron actually sold. Not food. They sold solutions to the exact problems that were making CSA members quit. The member who left your CSA because they didn't know what to do with the kohlrabi. HelloFresh sent them a recipe card with pre-portioned ingredients. Problem solved. The 70% of members who wanted to choose what was in their box. Meal kit companies built their entire platform around consumer choice at the individual meal level. Problem solved. The member who found the weekly surprise stressful after month 3? Every meal kit delivery is entirely predictable. You select it on Sunday, it arrives on Wednesday, you know exactly what you're making. Problem solved. The CSA model didn't fail because farmers did something wrong. It lost market share because a well-funded competitor identified every reason consumers were quitting CSAs and systematically engineered all of those reasons out of their product. This is not a reason to be discouraged. It is a reason to be precise. You cannot out-convenient HelloFresh. You cannot out-customize a platform with 100 engineers working on the personalization algorithm. You cannot compete on the dimensions where they spent billions to win. But HelloFresh cannot give someone a relationship with a real place and a real person who grows their food. That is not a small thing. It is the only thing a small farm CSA has that a meal kit company can never replicate. And it requires you to build your entire operation around it, which is exactly what the farms that survived figured out. Part 5. The one decision that changed everything.
Everything I'm about to show you in this section, the operational shift that separated the farms that survived from the ones that closed, is explored in depth in The Lean Farm by Ben Hartman. It is the definitive guide to treating a small farm like an efficient, profitable business rather than a lifestyle choice. If Part 5 resonates with you, that book is your next step. Link in the description.
The farms that survived, the ones not in the USDA's decline statistics, all made the same decision. They stopped treating the CSA as a revenue model and started treating it as a relationship model. That sounds like a philosophical distinction. It is actually an operational one. And it changes everything downstream. A farm that treats CSA as revenue optimizes for member count. It pushes to fill every share. It keeps the fixed box because customization is complicated. It treats the weekly delivery as a transaction. And when 50% of members don't renew, it treats that as a marketing problem. A farm that treats CSA as a relationship optimizes for retention. It invests in the member experience. Farm visit days, a newsletter that tells people what's actually happening in the fields this week. A volunteer program that lets members earn their share through labor. It offers box customization because the data says 70% of members want it, and farms that offer it see retention improve by 25%. And when a member doesn't renew, it treats that as a product design failure. not a marketing failure. The financial implications of this single mindset shift are significant. A farm that reduces annual churn from 50% to 30% doesn't just keep more members. It cuts acquisition costs. It stabilizes its planning horizon. It builds the kind of multi-year member relationships that generate referrals, which are the lowest cost new member acquisitions possible. The retention math compounds in your favor in a way that the acquisition math never does. The relationship model farm also recognizes something the revenue model farm misses. CSA works best as one channel in a multi-channel operation, not as the whole business. CSA provides pre-season cash flow and the highest loyalty customers. Farmers Market provides flexibility and premium pricing. Wholesale or restaurant accounts provide volume and consistency. The farms that bet everything on CSA as their sole revenue source are the ones that are gone. And the minimum viable scale matters more than the launch plan admits. Extension Service research consistently points to 50 to 75 members as the floor where CSA economics begin to make sense as a primary income source. Below that, you are running a community service with farm economics. Above it, you are running a business. The farms that survived didn't find a better crop or a better box. They built a better relationship, and then built a business model around protecting it. The Farm Analyst verdict. Let's come back to the February morning. The renewal emails have gone out, the responses are coming in, and the farmer is learning the hard way that the business plan was built on assumptions the spreadsheet never questioned. The 50% churn was always coming. The cost per box was always higher than the gross revenue implied. The overhead was always there, in the software fees, the processing costs, the hours spent on member communication that looked like farming, but wasn't. The minimum viable scale was always larger than the launch video suggested. None of this was hidden. It was just never shown. That gap between the version of the model that gets shown and the version that exists is exactly what this channel is built to close. The Farm Analyst verdict on CSA farming: it works, conditionally, at the right scale, with the right channel mix, with retention treated as your primary financial metric, not an afterthought. The business is real, the path is real, but it runs through a set of structural realities that the optimistic version of the story skips entirely. The 42% of farms that disappeared didn't fail because they couldn't grow vegetables. They failed because nobody ran these numbers with them before they started. We are not here to tell you that farming is easy or farming is hard. We are here to make sure you never build a business plan with a blank page where the costs should be.
And if there is one book that explains exactly why that blank page exists in the first place, why passionate people build businesses that fail not because of bad products, but because of bad business thinking, it is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. It is not a farming book. It is the best book ever written about why small business owners work themselves into the ground and still lose money. Every CSA operator should read it before year 2. Link in the description.
If you want this kind of forensic audit on every major specialty crop and farm business model in North America, subscribe to the Farm Analyst. Every video on this channel is built the same way. Sourced data, complete cost accounting, no filters. We don't grow crops, we grow margins.